On New Year's Day in 2010, at around 12:20 a.m., 4-year-old Markel Peters was killed by celebratory gunfire while attending church with his parents. The police stated at the time that the shot could have come from a mile away. Robert Pickton, known as the Pig Farmer, was a Canadian serial killer convicted of murdering 6 women, though he confessed to 49. He targeted sex workers in Vancouver, disposing of remains on his pig farm. The case exposed failures in the justice system and led to changes in law enforcement practices. Jesse Shane Kempson gained notoriety for the murder of Grace Millane, a British backpacker in New Zealand, in 2018. Kempson met Millane via a dating app, and after her death, he disposed of her body. In 2019, he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Crazy footage from 2014 shows Christopher Jones doing a routine training dive to become a skydive instructor. At 9,000 feet, Jones fell unconscious and suffered a seizure mid-air. Thankfully, his instructor, Sheldon McFarlane, was able to pull his ripcord and save him. Christopher Scarver beat Jeffrey Dahmer to death in 1994. When asked why he did it, he said, "He would fashion severed limbs out of prison food to taunt the other inmates. He'd use ketchup for the blood." These young people in Istanbul witnessed the 2016 bombing. The explosions were caused by a car bombing and suicide bombing in Istanbul's Beşiktaş municipality. 48 people were killed and 166 people were injured. Jeffrey Franklin was just 17 when he killed his parents and injured 3 of his siblings with a sledgehammer and a hatchet on March 10, 1998. An attack, people say, that was brought on by devil worship. He also wrote about the murders. Here are 4 random items that were found in the aftermath of 9/11 from the Pentagon and the Twin Towers. This is Hiroshima in 1945 compared to what it looked like in 2020. 78,000 people perished instantly when the US dropped an atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima in Japan on the 6th of August 1945. The garrote is a strangulation device that can be used to execute the condemned. Usually the unfortunate individual is tied to a wooden stake with a metal clap wrapped around his neck before the executioner then tightens the screw, aiming to rupture the brainstem. Several pieces of glass from the Twin Towers survived the collapse on September 11, 2001, including windows from the World Trade Center's North Tower. Pictured here is one of these fragments that serves as a poignant artifact, symbolizing resilience amidst the tragedy. This is one of the final photographs of musicians Buddy Holly, J.P. Richardson, and Richie Valens, posing before boarding a plane that tragically crashed into a lava field on February 3, 1959, later known as the day the music died. In 2013, Brad Davis gave his 58-year-old stepfather, Denver Lee St. Clair, an atomic wedgie by pulling his underwear over his head during a fight. The elastic underwear band strangled St. Clair, who sadly passed away as a result. Brad was sentenced to 30 years in prison. This crazy footage shows the film crew for Midnight Rider running from an oncoming train. Most of the crew survived unscathed, but tragically 27-year-old camera assistant Sarah Jones was fatally struck. In 1994, Italian pentathlete Mauro Prosperi was competing in a 145-mile endurance event through the Sahara Desert in Morocco. During the race, a sandstorm disoriented Prosperi, causing him to run nearly 200 miles in the wrong direction, and he soon found himself completely stranded and without any resources. Within a few days, he decided to slit his wrists in an attempt to die a less painful death. But due to the shallow depth of the incisions he cut and his high level of dehydration, The blood within his veins had clotted instead of freely flowing. 9 days later, he was finally rescued in Algeria after losing 40 pounds, surviving off of insects, cacti, bats, and snakes. Azam Mangori, age 24, killed Lorraine Cox, age 32, in his apartment above a kebab shop in Exeter, UK, in September 2021. Mangori, of a Stoke-on-Trent address, was found guilty of murder by a jury at Exeter Crown Court after he admitted preventing a lawful burial. He was sentenced and will serve at least 20 years in jail. These are the graves of mother-daughter actress duo Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher passed away on December 27, 2016, after being in intensive care for 4 days following a medical emergency on a flight to LA. The following day, on December 28th, her mother, Debbie Reynolds, suffered a severe stroke and sadly passed away. Alexandra Tobias gained notoriety for shaking her baby to death in 2010. She confessed to manslaughter, stating frustration with the baby interrupting her Farmville game. Tobias was sentenced to 50 years in prison in Florida for this tragic incident. Jeremy Ganger was employed as a bouncer at Ned Pepper's in the Oregon district of Dayton, Ohio, on the tragic night of the 2019 mass shooting, which claimed the lives of 9 individuals. He valiantly escorted numerous people into the safety of Ned Pepper's bar as the gunman advanced toward them. Despite sustaining a piece of shrapnel in his leg, Ganger survived the ordeal and no doubt saved the lives of many people. Renowned TikToker Taylor Jean Scrum died in a motorcycle crash on Interstate 95. She was a part of 4 bikers who collided for unknown reasons. Taylor, age 29, was fatally struck by an SUV, and she was unfortunately pronounced dead on the spot. Robbie Middleton was just 8 years old when he was tied to a tree, doused with gasoline, and set on fire by a 13-year-old neighbor in Splendora, Texas. Despite surviving the attack, Robbie suffered burns over 99% of his body and endured years of medical treatment before he passed away at the age of 20. Andrei Chikatilo, nicknamed the Butcher of Rostov, sexually assaulted, murdered, and mutilated at least 52 women and children between 1978 and 1990. He was sentenced to death for his crimes and executed with a bullet to the back of the head in 1994. This picture was taken at 11:30 a.m. on September 11, 2001, minutes after both towers collapsed. This photo from August 22, 1992, shows the last image of Vicki Weaver before she was killed by an FBI sniper during the Ruby Ridge standoff. In 2016, Diana Lovejoy plotted to end her ex-husband's life following a turbulent divorce. She conspired with her new boyfriend, Weldon McDavid Jr., paying him $2,000 to shoot her ex-husband, Greg Mulvihill. Fortunately, the bullet missed vital organs, and Greg survived the attack. Diana and Weldon were swiftly apprehended, leading to a trial. Subsequently, Diana was sentenced to 26 years to life in prison, while Weldon received a 50-year sentence as he was the one who pulled the trigger. Verfi Kudi gained notoriety after leaving her 20-month-old daughter alone for 9 days in a London flat, leading to the child's death in December 2019. Kudi pleaded guilty to manslaughter by gross negligence. In 2021, she was sentenced to 9 years in prison for her tragic actions. In 2017, Natalia Nemetz was cleaning a caramel tank at a confectionery factory in Russia. As she was cleaning the tank, molten caramel came gushing in, drowning her and boiling her alive. Shocked workers saw only her legs poking out of the caramel in the tank, but could do nothing to save her. This is Steven Sanderson. He offed his cellmate Theodore Dyer after finding out he did bad things to a very small little one. Sanderson said what made it worse was that Dyer kept trying to justify his actions for what he did. This courtroom footage from 2015 shows Jacob Morgan's reaction after being convicted of setting a fire that killed his 14-month-old stepbrother. He was sentenced to 15 years. He was released in December 2022 after serving half his sentence.